All right. So let's actually look at the or the a third challenge here. And as a reminder, we started with the IAM enumeration, and then we didn't do the IAM cross account enumeration because I don't know, maybe it's probably very similar to this one. Then in the previous video, we looked into the misconfigured trust policy, and now we're gonna look into the overly permissive permission one. You can see combination one. Do we have other overly permissive permissions? Yeah, the second one. So we're gonna go into this one, and I want to reiterate what we're actually doing here. So we're actually looking into the security of AWS, Amazon Web Services, how to approach security from a blue team perspective and also from a red team perspective more later on. So right now all of these that we've done so far are from a blue team perspective, and it's really important. And I wouldn't say that it completely applies to the blue team perspective only because some of it will definitely overlap into the offensive side of things as well. So let's actually look into this overly permissive permission, see what it's about. And I haven't started it yet, so it's like I'm learning as we go here. So we have a walkthrough, and maybe we're actually gonna access it because I don't wanna. The point of actually doing these videos is not to brag about whatever skill I would have, because I consider myself a lifelong learner and not someone who's actually entitled to expertise. Uh, I'm actually going to look into these, so let's open the download manual in a new window because I want to keep these videos quite short and straight to the point instead of me just rambling around and trying to figure out my way around. So, that being said, this should be an easier one. So let's see. Overly permissive permissions can be abused by a user to perform privileged blah operations. Objective: leverage the policy attached to the student user and attain administrative privileges on the AWS account. Now, if they actually tell me right now that I have to fire up my Kali Linux, I don't want to do it. So, because as you can see here, they're probably actually using some sort of a Linux flavor, offensive flavor here. So, just maybe I'll start it for the sake of it. Let's start it. So, this is almost done. Labeling. The lab is still being built. Alright, okay, let's see. Yeah, so we get the same thing here. Maybe, just maybe. What if we try to open it up in a incognito window? I am user student. The password. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So it works. Maybe we can look at the permissions over here without actually having to access them via the console. So what is it that we're looking for? Leverage the policy attached to the student user and attain administrative privileges on the AWS account. Now, I assume that they want us to actually configure the AWS account to actually log in with these and then look into the user permissions. So, yeah, probably do it. Do it the hard way. Let me see if I have internet connection here. So let's ping twitter.com. I think it's up and running. So it actually sent data to Twitter. Maybe we get it back. We probably get it back. So let me see if I do an ifconfig. I should probably stop the ton 0. So ifconfig ton 0 down. Then I clear ifconfig. Now let's do a ping twitter.com. Should probably work, I guess. And then what we have to do is that we have to actually configure the AWS command line interface with these credentials. Let's see. Yeah, so internet is running. Let's go to TMP. Remove everything from TMP. rm-r. Okay, clear. Now AWS configure. And now we should probably configure it with access key ID, Control C, Control Shift V, and then secret access key, Control C, Control Shift V. Alright, now how do we list? What we have to do is leverage the policy attached to the student user. So what I'm actually looking at as someone who does not, I would say, know exactly what they have to do here, I would actually look for how to list the policies. I assume that the user doesn't have administrative privileges. So in this case, I would list user policies. Now notice that I'm saying user and not student user. So AWS, let's say AWS list user policies. And actually also CLI, command line interface, list user policies. Maybe that's actually the entire command. So if we do AWS list user policies, doesn't have autocomplete. Maybe that's not the command. It's probably AWS IIM list user policies, and I'm not gonna guess further on. I'm actually going to look into the documentation. List user policies, not policies. 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 What does it say? The following arguments are required username. Now, is the student the actual username? Minus minus username, so you have to specify minus minus username and then username, policy names. So this username probably doesn't exist. What if I do just list policies? You don't have this option. Taking a little longer to compute. So we have policies. You have a service policy. I think this is the right way to go, right? You also have direct connect read-only access. So direct connect read-only access, Glacier read-only access. So you've got actually 3 policies. I think they probably want us to abuse this one, I assume. So what I actually did, again was to configure the AWS with my access key and my secret key with the default region and the default output format none. And then what I actually did was to list the policies. And now the third part is probably how to actually use one of those policies abusively. Leverage the policy attached to the student user and attain administrative privileges on the AWS account. So let's look into this lab manual. See exactly how they go about it. So AWS configure exactly what we did. So list attached policies. List attached policies. I only listed the policies, and as you can see, we don't have the suggestion for attached policies. But if we looked here, you have list attached role policy, group, user policies. This is probably the one. List attached user policies. Have they actually written this walkthrough? For example, have they actually wrote it like months ago? Let's see if it works. So AWS Control C, what's this? So AWS IAM, and let me turn off my notifications here so that we don't get disturbed. IAM list attached user policies. Let's see if it works. And then I think they also specified username student. See if it works. It actually works. So IAM read-only access, and then you have the service. Is it actually the same one that's here? So service policy ID. You don't have the ID, but you have policy service 655 and ends in 799. 655 ends in 799. So it's probably the same thing that we did here. So it's just that you can probably do it in multiple ways. Now, what is next? Check policy details for the service policy. So you would check it with get policy and then policy ARN and the entire thing. So AWS IAM, it was get policy, I believe, and then minus policy ARN, which is this, I think. Let's actually double check that. So minus policy ARN, and it's not minus here. So if we go back, all right, details of the policy, which is exactly what's here. So it's exactly the same thing as it's in there. 5451, 5451. Policy name, policy ID, the path, not stuff that's not important. Permission boundary usage count is attachable. True. All right, what's next? View policy details for the V1 version of the policy. Get policy version, and then you have to specify the version ID. So get policy version and then specify, we do a version here, and then at the end you specify minus minus version ID v1, I believe, version ID v1, and it says version 2012, effect allow, attach user policy. So what is it exactly that this tells us? They actually tell us to create a new user. IAM create user username. So let's actually learn how to create user via the command line interface with AWS. So it says AWS IAM create user, and then you have to specify username, and then let's say Jeff, username. So we get the same access denied because our student user is not authorized to perform on this resource. So creating a new user. What's next? User creation failed due to insufficient privileges. Get administrator access policy ARN. So they're actually doing the same thing that I did with the first command. So let's actually clear this, then go back to my first command with the list policies, this one, and then they actually grabbed for the for which one? For the service one. I think they grabbed for the service one. No, for the administrator access. Oh, so there's more. Look at it. So many policies here. So administrator, I should have probably grabbed as well for the administrator access, because who knows how long this is. Yeah, let's just quit this and then grab for administrative or administrator. So administrator access. Okay, one, amplify, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, audit manager administrator access. So it's probably this one, the simple one. Now, from a student perspective, how would we actually use this type of policy to create a new user? I think this is what they probably want. So attach administrator policy to the current user. So this is actually the trick. When, as far as I understand, when you are able to look into the policies, you have a service policy attached to the username, and this service policy, it probably allows you to attach other policies from other users, and that's how you actually abuse the feature. Now view policy, you can view the policy, and as you can see here, attach user policy, which is why you have the right to attach policies from other users, and therefore you'll probably be able to create a new user with that policy under your account. Because if you would try to create with your default access as a student user, you probably can't, as you can see here. But if you add that policy, the administrator access policy, to yourself, then you'd be able to actually exploit this misconfiguration. As you can see, attached administrator policy to the current user and confirm by listing policies. So, in this case, attach user policy username and then policy ARN. So you have to specify which policy you want to attach to your username, because you can, as a student username, attach policies, as we've seen previously. Therefore, you're attaching yourself an administrator access policy. So this is the first command, and then you have, so this is really interesting. I'm actually learning as we speak here. It's really interesting what you can do with AWS here. So AWS IAM attach user policy, and then you have to specify the username first or the policy. I think it's the username. It was minus username, I guess, student, and then ARN user policy. So minus username, policy ARN, and we have this policy. So it was policy ARN, which is exactly this one, the administrator access. Anything else? I think this is it. Yeah, should be good to go. Let's see. Alright, now AWS list policies for ourselves. So for the student, list attached policies, list attached user policies, and there you have it, administrator access. Now so we have added this type of policy. Now you can see the severity of this thing, and I'm really sure that if you find yourself penetration testing AWS, especially if you're using into IAM, if you're looking into IAM, be sure to check all the policies, because there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of policies that can be exploited via these misconfigurations. So again, let's try now, since we have this administrator access policy, let's now try and create a username Jeff, and there you have it. You have actually been able to create this username because you've attached yourself administrator access. List attach policies to the username, and as we've seen, now try to create a new username to verify administrator access, and the command ran successfully, as we've seen. So you find more reference to this command line to the overall command line interface at the official documentation, and also here with the user policies, list user policies. All right, so first off, this has been really a great learning experience for myself and probably for you as well. So I'm actually really looking forward to let's actually finish this and mark as complete. I'm actually really looking forward to the next challenges here, which are very realistic, and as I've told you in previous videos, a lot of the websites, services, a lot of the stuff online runs on AWS, on Google Cloud, and on other big cloud providers, on Azure as well. So if you know this kind of stuff, you have good advantage not only as a penetration tester but also as a blue teamer. So I'm actually really looking forward to go on and explore these identity and user management challenges, and also the rest of the challenges when it comes to storage, when it comes to DynamoDB, the gateway, the Lambda service, and the databases. And maybe as we keep on doing these, they're gonna add labs or challenges that have to do with Google Cloud, which is also really important, and also Microsoft Azure. All right, so that's it for this one.